Welcome everyone to the Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Just a reminder that this is a Committee of the Whole meeting and no decisions will be made here today. There will only be recommendations that will go to our next regular council meeting on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 for consideration. A couple of reminders for today's meeting. Members of the media may sit in the upper balcony at the reserved media table. All other guests, please take a seat in the first floor gallery. If that is full, there is overflow seating on the second floor in the Victoria Room where you will be able to see and hear the meeting. We live stream the meeting on our YouTube channel and the recording is available after the meeting. The meeting is also broadcast on Broadcast Live on your TV, Cogeco Subscribers Channel 10, HD Channel 700, and rebroadcasted on Wednesday at 9 a.m. and on Saturday at noon. Because meetings are accessible to the public in all these ways, video or audio recording by members of the public is not permitted in council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. Thank you for your cooperation. Councillor Doble, I think you have the adoption of the agenda.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Richardson, that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole of Tuesday, May the 5th, 2026 be adopted as circulated and with the following amendments. Addition item 5.4 being a deputation by Deirbla Lynch and Richard Ovcharovich of Lakelands Public Health relating to correspondence from Lakelands Public Health that is noted in agenda item 6.1. Deletion, item 5.2, being a deputation by Dr. Baldeep Paul and Andrew Vale relating to the after-hours clinic operated by the City of Kawartha Lakes Family Health Team.
Thank you. Any other additions, deletions, questions about the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's passed. We'll move on to announcements. Have a couple for today. Today on Red Dress Day, we recognize and honor the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people across Canada. We encourage everyone to wear red as a symbol of remembrance, solidarity, and awareness. As the color red has become a powerful symbol calling attention to those who are missing and those whose lives were taken too soon. This day is also a solemn reminder of the ongoing violence faced by Indigenous communities and the need for truth, justice, and reconciliation. Although Indigenous women make up only about 5% of Canada's female population, they account for approximately 16% of female homicide victims and 11% of missing women cases, and are estimated to be 6 times more likely to be murdered than non-Indigenous women. So today is to honor those people. It is also MS Awareness Month and is dedicated to education, the sharing of personal stories, and the raising of funds through MS Walks, a Canada-wide series of events to raise money for research to end the life-altering affliction that is multiple sclerosis. MS is a complex neurological disease and often shows up in ways that are invisible to others, but which can significantly alter someone's day-to-day habits and routine. This past Friday, we raised the MS flag to do our part in raising awareness. I encourage everyone to take a walk for MS or participate in any way you can. Also, on Saturday, May 9th, it is World Migratory Bird Day. City of Kawartha Lakes has been designated by Nature Canada as a bird-friendly city, and as such, we encourage residents to get outside to enjoy the many birds returning to our area or passing through on their flights northward. We also encourage residents to protect migrating birds however they can, and whenever possible, turning off lights at night to help prevent collisions with windows. Lights at City Hall will be out for the night to do our part. Deputy Mayor Richardson, I believe you have an announcement as well.
I do, and thank you through you, and thank you for the opportunity. I actually am formally announcing that I will not be seeking re-election in the upcoming municipal election. This has been a very difficult and deeply personal decision. It's important to be candid about the realities of serving in public office. Over time, the environment has become increasingly marked by more incivility, being yelled at, unfairly blamed, and subject to ongoing harassment, online abuse, social media trolling, and personal threats. As a woman in this role, these experiences often too being sharpened by the biased scrutiny and unequal expectations. While it's especially concerning is that this behavior has not remained confined to public meetings or online spaces. Repeated uninvited visits to my home and to my family business have crossed a clear boundary, raising legitimate concerns about safety and well-being of those closest to me. Public service will always be about and involve scrutiny and criticism, and this is part of this responsibility. But when conduct crosses into intimidation and personal intrusion, it takes its toll. These realities have weighed on me and has been a significant factor in me making this decision today, and I appreciate your support. Over the past 8 years, I've given this role my total commitment. I've worked hard to make a difference and serve those who've put their trust in me. Stepping away is not easy. There's still important work to be done. I cannot, in good conscience, though, continue at the expense of my family's privacy, safety, and my well-being. By speaking openly, I hope to encourage more respectful engagement with elected officials. We can do better by choosing civility, demonstrating mutual respect, and recognizing those in public office are individuals with family just like us. The City of Kawartha Lake is a large and diverse municipality representing a wide range of communities and interests. As council, we are required to make decisions that may not always be popular, but are made for the broader interests of the communities in mind. Our focus is working together to foster collaboration and build a cohesive, unified municipality where mutual respect must remain the standard. I wish to thank staff for all your guidance and support the last 8 years and allowing me to advocate for Ward 8 and to be part of meaningful accomplishments for our entire community. To my fellow councillors, past and present, thank you for your collaboration and partnership. Together we have worked to move the city forward, and I believe we can all be proud of what we've accomplished. Serving in this role has been an incredible experience. I will miss the opportunity to learn something new every day, the challenges that have pushed me to grow, and the satisfaction of finding and delivering results for my residents. I'm grateful for the experiences, the friendships, and the opportunity to serve and work along so many dedicated members of our communities. I wish everyone the very best in the future. I will be cheering you on from the sidelines as you continue to do important work on serving our community and the Kawartha Lakes. For me, the question isn't about commitment anymore. It's about how much my peace and privacy and how much I'm willing to give up to keep doing it. This next chapter for me is about stepping back, prioritizing my family, restoring balance in my life, and spending more time with my grandchildren. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's hope there's some impetus for the provincial government to finally pass legislation to protect elected officials from this kind of treatment. And I want to thank you, Deputy Mayor Richardson, for your 8 years of service. I know how hard you've worked. I know the things you've accomplished. I know the things that got you excited. And I think you were a really, really good councillor. And the City of Kawartha Lakes is going to miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on today's agenda? Seeing none, should any arise, advise the chair and we will deal with them accordingly. Moving on to deputations. Item 5.1 is a request for stormwater drainage infrastructure on Princess Street, Fenelon Falls. Mr. Gregory Kerr. Mr. Kerr, you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor Elmsley and members of council. Thanks for allowing me to speak today with regards to my specific matter. I am speaking on behalf of my mother, Karen Hare, who is the owner of a newly constructed home in Fenelon Falls on 5 Princess Street East. I do have some attachments that I forwarded over to Sarah prior to today's meeting. Perhaps we could show those, or if you have copies of those, we could refer to the topographical map on page 1 that outlines the location of 5 Princess Street East and the stormwater drainage infrastructure surrounding it. Now, this lot was originally vacant, and it was developed back in April of 2022 and issued occupancy in October of 2022. This property falls under the oversight and regulation management of Kawartha Conservation, as it has been deemed as a floodplain in the area. And during the initial excavation for footings and foundation, and granted this was in April, it was discovered that extreme high water tables did exist. At the time, I happened to live right next door, so I had the opportunity to oversee a lot of the process of construction, and that, granted, was an initial concern. However, construction continued. Site plan and elevation reports were completed by Co-Fisher Cameron and submitted to the city's building department and subsequently approved. I guess I should acknowledge that the role and responsibility of the surveyors are to ensure that the elevations are appropriate, and the stormwater management was sufficient enough to divert water to discharge points such as the drainage infrastructure surrounding the area. I'm not entirely sure what the roles and responsibilities of Kawartha Conservation are, but in a quick Google search, it assumes that they look after flood mapping of the area, protected species, ecosystems, and things of that nature. So that was also a part of the permit process, which was subsequently approved. Now, moving forward to the matters at hand, in March of 2023, which was the first spring after taking occupancy of the home, there was a noticeable increase in the sump pump reservoir inside the home in terms of the water level, which of course has my mom concerned. Please understand my mom couldn't be here today because of certain limitations, which would include going up and down the stairs to the basement to check to see what's going on. All she could say was that, "There's humming, Greg, and I need you to go check that out for me." So I did, and as a result, I've sort of monitored that since that time. And as such, she had invested in some enhancements with regards to diverting some of the stormwater, such as eaves troughs and rain barrels and extended downspouts and things of that nature to perhaps avoid a potential flood. So as time went on, March of 2024 specifically, since the water table, or excuse me, the water level in the sump pump reservoir hadn't changed in 12 months, she decided to add a bigger pump and a backup pump just in case the power went out. I had at that point informed Public Works that perhaps the drainage ditches that are visible on this aerial map may need some attention in terms of improvements and maintenance and such. And no action was taken at that time. So I'm sure we can all recall in March of 2025, we had that ice storm, significant snowfall, significant thaw, and then the subsequent torrential rain. We did in fact take on water, and there was an insurance claim submitted. There was roughly $42,000 worth of property damage. But again, we felt that that was a one-time occurrence due to inclement weather. So we continued to manage and monitor the situation, and stayed in contact with Public Works in terms of what they could potentially do to clean out the drainage ditches. And that's really the focal point of this conversation today. If I could refer to some of the pictures I've taken, they were taken roughly a month ago. You can see perhaps on the first page a picture of the home itself, and I've kind of made notes on these images as to what they represent in reference to the aerial map. It just so happens to be that on the east side of 5 Princess Street at my mom's home, there is a city easement that allows for stormwater drainage, which comes across the marked red line from the north side of Highway 121 under the street, past my neighbors, and then between this house and my neighbor's house, which by virtue of the photographs you can see has been severely overgrown and saturated with vegetation, which has caused blockage and a negative flow for any stormwater stormwater that has to pass through. So numerous visits from Public Works field representatives to determine what the problems might be. Really no action of substance or information was given of substance to determine what the next steps could be. And of course, this March, we didn't have that same rainstorm, ice storm, and significant snow melt. Well, that's arguable, but certainly not to the extent of last year. Yet the sump pump reservoir in my mom's basement still overflowed to the point where it wasn't causing damage. But any further precipitation certainly would have indicated an imminent flood.
I get you to sum up, please?
Sure. My concerns is that after numerous attempts, and I should acknowledge Councillor Perry for following up on my concerns, I'd like to see some further action taken to ensure that the mapped out area of those drainage ditches do get cleaned out to prevent any further saturation of groundwater and increase water tables, and hopefully eliminate this potential cause for any future damage.
I'll get you to just stay there for a minute, see if there are any questions. I have a motion to receive the deputation. Councillor Perry, seconder Councillor Warren. Questions, Councillor Perry?
Yes, just briefly, thanks very much for coming today and putting this particular case on Council's radar. I know that I just had an update from Public Works that they're looking at the easement and looking at the survey, and or want to get a survey done to see whose responsibilities are where. So work is ongoing on this ditch. My question just is, from the photos you provided and having been out there a few times, there are a few lots backing onto this drainage, this ditch.
Correct.
Have your neighbors been implicated in this in any way?
Not to the extent of the water problems per se. Of course, on 121 up behind my mom's home, they're on a higher elevation, so they wouldn't be impacted in the same capacity. But anyone on the same elevation as myself, such as neighbors to the east and along Clifton Street, have yes been impacted by water in the past in terms of penetration, flooding in the basement and such. So I'm not the only one, but it appears, and I'm not an engineer, that my particular location is somewhat lower than the rest of the elevations of the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks. So it's not just you and your property?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the deputant? Seeing none, All in favor? Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
And I believe, as Councillor Perry pointed out, that Public Works has us on their radar, and they are looking to move the file forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Next item on the agenda is Mr. David Strickland and the Department of National Defense Over the Horizon Radar Program. Mr. Strickland, you have 5 minutes.
Get it? Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good afternoon. I'm Dave Strickland. I'm here to speak about, on behalf of the Municipal Monitor, myself, and the 47 people who signed the petition against selling the site for the radar. I am here regarding that proposed radar defense site at Zero Thistle Trail, and I'm urging you not to sell the land to the DND. Those allowances make the military project possible, and I do not believe it's the right interests of the community. We're not just talking about zoning bylaws, we're talking about duty of care. We're talking about the ultimate price that the people who live next to this site would pay if it becomes a possible military target. You must halt the sale for 3 vital reasons: danger to our families, the destruction of sanctuary, and the fact that you're leaving vulnerable neighbors at risk in the dark. First, the unacceptable risk to public safety. Placing a military radar site in a known location is a focused target, and in any conflict or any violent rupture, collateral damage is now a certainty. You merely look at the news to know that. Think about the mother of 4 young children who just built a new home down the road. If the government believes Zero Thistle Trail is the only spot for this radar, they're putting her family inside of a target zone. We know we cannot safely and quickly evaluate an entire community during a crisis, but worse, if the unthinkable happens, the closest hospital emergency department is an hour away. An hour. In a strike or emergency, that distance is a death sentence. By selling this land, you place her family in the crosshairs without a lifeline. That is a risk no local government should ever force upon its people, ever. Second, consider the total destruction of our sanctuary. This area is a pristine wilderness retreat. People build their lives here for peace, the freedom, and the natural environment. Think of the man in our community or the woman behind me who has a fly-in lodge, one of the signatures on our petition. Her entire life, her property rely on her ability to fly in and out. A military radar installation brings restricted airspace and heavy security. It completely destroys the ability to fly. It destroys her sanctuary. It destroys her life's work. It destroys her dream. A heavy military facility is fundamentally incompatible with our home. You do not tear up a natural retreat to build a military installation. It makes no logical sense for the land, the wildlife, or the people who call this place home. Third, liability and complete lack of informed consent. We have cancer survivors 2.5 kilometers away. These are neighbors who moved here to heal, to find quiet, to live out their lives in a safe, healthy environment. Now they're facing extreme, unknown risks right next door. Nobody's come to their doors to tell them exactly what a high-powered radar site means for their physical health and safety or their cancer survival. You cannot allow any adjacent land to be sold until every single person knows exactly what they are dealing with. If this municipality pushes a land sale through in the dark, exposing residents who live an hour away from a hospital to undocumented dangers, the immense liability falls directly on this council. You must protect your community, not endanger it. It is your duty to the Crown, to the King, and to Louise Arbour, the new head of the military of Canada, and the Governor General, who just got appointed today. My time is ending, but the impact of your decisions will last a lifetime. These properties are not just lines on the map. They belong to the mother of four. They belong to the pilot sitting behind me. They belong to the cancer survivors, Teresa, and her husband, who came here to be away from such things. Your first and most important job is to protect these people. The human cost is too high. The location is completely wrong. We've got lands in Pickering, how about those? And the liability is massive. I'm asking the council today to do three things. First, stand up for your residents. There's 47 of them that signed the petition. There's a lot more that care. Millions of people have rhymed in on this. Protect our wilderness. That's why people move here. It is our asset. It is not on the books, but it is an asset. And finally, do not sell this land and enable this DND radar site to continue. That is my wish. I do not believe it makes sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If you just stay there in case there's a question. Can I get a motion to receive Councillor Doble, Councillor Yeo? Any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's passed. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Next up, we have recommendations for a municipal bylaw and associated enforcement program to address the growing harms of tobacco, vape, and water pipe establishments. Relating to item 6.1 on the agenda, we have Deborah Lynch and Richard Ocharovich of Lakelands Public Health. And you have 5 minutes.
The red light? Okay. Excuse me. Thank you for this opportunity to summarize the recommendations in the correspondence and to answer any questions or concerns. We're here today on behalf of Dr. Thomas Piggott of Lakelands Public Health. My name is Dervla Lynch, and I'm a tobacco control officer, and with me today is Richard Ocharovich, manager of environmental health. He's going to help with questions, so I invite you to save all the difficult ones for him. This is actually my second deputation of this council. I'll forgive you if you don't remember. The first time was 22 years ago. And it was actually also related to smoke-free bylaw. Kawartha Lakes implemented a smoke-free bylaw, several years in advance of the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, demonstrating leadership and a commitment to the health and well-being of our communities. So we know that nicotine use and nicotine addiction and tobacco use continue to be the leading cause of disability and death in Ontario. I'm here today to talk about evidence-based tools and strategies aimed at reducing youth initiation to nicotine and tobacco products. And these recommendations fall under a strategy known as denormalization. Denormalization strategies recognize that nicotine delivery systems are not your everyday consumer products. They come with substantial risks and are supported by a powerful and profit-driven industry. Denormalization aims to change social norms and social acceptability of nicotine and tobacco use. And this is important because we know that youth initiation and use is strongly influenced by availability and visibility of nicotine delivery systems. Youth are highly receptive to new innovative products, and the developing brains of young people make them particularly susceptible to nicotine addiction. These recommendations are designed to strengthen denormalization efforts by reducing the availability and visibility of nicotine and tobacco products in our communities. The first recommendation is to ban indoor commercial spaces that allow water pipe smoking. Allowing new water pipe establishments to open where they have not previously existed undermine public health efforts to denormalize nicotine and tobacco use. Water pipe smoke contains similar levels of toxins to cigarette smoke, resulting in multiple harmful health outcomes such as lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory disease. People who experience secondhand exposure are also at high risk. And there is evidence that adolescents and young adults who have ever used water pipes are twice as likely to smoke cigarettes in the future. Currently, there are no water pipe use establishments in City of Kawartha Lakes, so there's an opportunity to ban them without any impact on current business. And a ban on these establishments supports denormalization, and it protects patrons and staff from the well-documented health risks associated with water pipe smoking and secondhand exposure. Public support for such initiatives is generally strong. 44 municipalities in Ontario have bylaws to regulate water pipe use, and legal challenges have repeatedly been upheld municipal authority. The next 4 recommendations in the correspondence are related to licensing, zoning, and smoke-free spaces. They include monitoring the density of retailers, managing the proximity of retailers to youth-oriented spaces like schools, trails, beaches, and public parks, capping the density of retailers at current levels and gradually reducing the cap over time, and expanding smoke-free spaces to include youth-oriented spaces not currently covered under the Smoke-Free Ontario Act. All of these recommendations contribute to the denormalization of nicotine and tobacco products. And the last recommendation in the correspondence is to coordinate enforcement. Lakelands Public Health will continue to ensure marketing and promotion restrictions are maintained, signage and health warnings meet regulatory requirements, and all retailers conform to regulations related to age restrictions and types of products sold. Lakelands Public Health also works with our local school boards on youth prevention initiatives and on the promotion of cessation support. We anticipate that this suite of recommendations will contribute to an overall reduction in nicotine and tobacco use in general, and particularly among youth. Strengthening the regulatory environment creates enforcement efficiencies for all parties, the municipality, public health, as well as school boards that have policies banning possession of nicotine and tobacco products. We also anticipate environmental benefits in terms of reducing hazardous waste, things like packaging, pods, and cigarette butts, and these recommendations contribute to ongoing efforts to denormalize tobacco and nicotine use in pursuit of a smoke-free society. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to stay there for a couple of minutes in case there are questions. I got a motion to receive. Councillor Joyce, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Warren.
Through you, and thank you for coming and letting us know this. So a water pipe store that sells cannabis, did they sell cannabis also? I'm just wondering, I believe that you can, I'm not sure whether or not you can get cigarette type nicotine products in cannabis stores. I'm not sure about that.
Well, a water pipe is actually the apparatus used to smoke, so it'd be what I've been referring to as a nicotine delivery system. You can use any variety of things to burn and then smoke through the water pipe. Traditionally, they'd be called shisha, and some come with tobacco and nicotine and some do not. I believe they can also be used for cannabis, although any tobacco or cannabis use would be covered in terms of them not being allowed to do it inside.
What I'm trying to get at, are there stores that sell nicotine products like vapes and whatever? You're talking specifically about water pipes, but there are, at this point in Kawartha Lakes, stores that sell nicotine products?
So there are stores that sell the water pipe and the shisha. What we're talking about is establishments that are put into place for patrons to use those devices and smoke inside in a commercial environment open to the public.
Oh, okay, I understand that.
If people were to smoke, so there are herbal shisha and tobacco-based shisha. If it were herbal-based shisha, for example, then it wouldn't be covered under the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, so people could freely smoke an herbal product in an indoor environment where the public have access. The trouble with that is that shisha is not federally regulated, so there is no official packaging, there's no ingredients list, and there's certainly no health warnings. So determining whether or not a product contains nicotine or not doesn't requires laboratory testing for enforcement, which creates some challenges. And also, I had something else, but I forget. And also, it is harder to enforce when you can't distinguish the product. The devices themselves are readily available in all kinds of convenience stores. It's the creation of a place like a lounge or a cafe where, because the apparatus is quite large, people tend to smoke it in a sedentary lounging type position rather than on the street or walking around.
Just one final question. So do you have any policies coming forward to try to stop nicotine use through vapes and that sort of delivery system for youth?
So I can speak to that. There is a provincial legislation, it's the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, which regulates the sale and usage of vape products. And we enforce that regulation. There's a restriction for sale, display, and promotion of those products. And specifically, there's an age restriction that's associated with the sale of vape products, as well as any other tobacco products. So we do enforce that regulation. That's going to continue. Like, there's no change in that. What we're talking about here is there's some limitations with the Smoke-Free Ontario Act that we're looking forward to council and the municipality to help kind of close those doors.
Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. I guess I'll start first with, I'm more interested in the promotion of, actually I would prefer to say the lack of promotion or the curbing of promotion and signage and whatnot. Maybe I'm getting too deep in the weeds here, but I'd love to see the fact that stores cannot say vapes sold here. They may still sell them, but much like cigarettes today, it's all hidden behind. Is that the direction we're going?
Yes.
Is that what's being recommended? Okay, yes. Thank you. The other thing I was going to say is when it comes to shisha bars, I'm quite familiar with them. Not that I patronize them. I'm coming out. No, my daughter's mother is Cypriot Turkish with a 20-year relationship there. Many visits to Cyprus. It's a very cultural thing. And it's herbal products, the shisha bars. It's a very cultural thing, and absolutely against smoking tobacco of any source of kind. But I think there has to be a balance where they're herbal, and I agree we need to regulate the herbal products. But you might be up against a cultural backlash from the Turkish and other communities who can demonstrate the lack of harm in this particular narrow case.
I would say that the harmful toxins and harmful health effects are consistent whether you use a tobacco-based product with nicotine or not. There's also some occupational health risks. People work in these places, and the Smoke-Free Ontario Act is really about protecting workers. And it's really not about diminishing cultural expression, but rather regulating commercial indoor environments where public and occupational health risks are present. And it's my understanding that even in other countries in the world, particularly the Middle East, there is movement around legislation to prevent youth access to some of these establishments and to regulate them better. So while it is a cultural practice in a lot of places, there is still concern about the health of youth and the staff who are exposed to the secondhand smoke.
Great answer. Thank you very much.
Councillor Doble.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Durbala, and apologies for mispronouncing your name earlier this afternoon. Thank you again. these recommendations I make eminent sense to me. We're trying to change human behavior, and it's important that we do so. I'm particularly struck by the impact on people around this activity, protecting workers, this kind of thing. But one question: are we aware of any of these measures being adopted by other municipalities in Ontario?
Yes, there's quite a few. There's 44 municipalities in Ontario have already enacted bylaws to restrict water pipe use and water pipe use establishments. So there seems to be broad public support for it.
Thank
And
you.
I would add that, even while this is a cultural practice, when these establishments set up in communities, the largest appeal in the growth area is among youth and young adults. So it's not necessarily among people who would traditionally have practiced water pipe use. It's sort of a new, innovative, exciting thing for youth and young adults to seek out and experiment with, and this is really why it's such a large concern for us.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you, thank you very much for the presentation. This is just a question that went across my mind. So recognizing how harmful this is a full ban option something that you would look over as opposed to zoning or licensing restrictions?
Well, I think it'd be hard to regulate the incoming product without, buy-in from other levels of government. So really, this makes the most of the powers and tools available to the municipality. But maybe you have something to add to that, Richard?
So the request and recommendation was for the ban of establishing of the hookah and shisha bars or water pipe smoking bars and establishments, not necessarily the product themselves. People culturally, if they wish to partake in their own homes, provided that they're not exposing their children, are free to do so. But as for not normalizing or reducing the normalization of the usage of those products, that's part of the reason, or the main reason why we're asking for your support.
Councillor Yule.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm reading your letter and stuff, and you also dig into reducing stores' ability to sell products within certain parameters, proximity to schools, and then as time goes on, that those facilities or those stores will expand and to eventually, what it sounds like, basically nobody will be able to sell a cigarette.
That's right.
Right.
It's called
So, yeah. So that's where the whole my mind goes. And but as for Councillor Warren, we used to call it a bong. It wasn't called a water pipe. But
those are a little bit different, but
yeah, a little bit.
Sure.
But so the way the government's going today is we're legalizing cannabis. We're selling booze in corner stores, and we're closing beer stores. But we're making it everything else more accessible, and we're going after tobacco, which by all means, as a 30-year smoker, something's got to be done to keep the kids off it. But my question is, why does the onus falling on this level of government? And why isn't the province stepping up more instead of expanding the youth and stuff to other areas? Why aren't they attacking more and putting the onus once again, and I say once again, on municipalities?
Yeah, I appreciate your concern about increasing the availability and visibility of cannabis and alcohol, and I think these are somewhat social experiments that we will find out more about in the future. I would say in relation to banning the product, the national strategy is actually to get to under 5% by 2035 with a view to eventually banning the product. And then the other question is, looking back to the original smoke-free bylaw days, the province really stepped in and harmonized a patchwork of municipal policies when it became popular and politically expedient to do so. And I suspect this might be a similar trajectory with some of these regulations that we're recommending.
Thank you. Just a question or two. So if we went forward with this, and this is along the lines of Councillor Yo's question about why us, when tobacco legislation first came in, it was left up to the municipalities to regulate it. And then after we did the heavy lifting and spent the money, the province and the Fed stepped in and passed their own regulations and made ours rather obsolete. So we seem to be going down that road again. And one of my questions is, who would be responsible for regulating this? Is this going to fall on the municipality's municipal bylaw, or is it falling on your inspectors should a bylaw be passed?
So if I can answer that question. So the recommendations that we're putting forth are more for joint responsibility. So there is a responsibility at the provincial level, the health unit level, and the municipal level. There is gaps in the existing legislation, and the municipality has the authority and the ability to manage and oversee and approve zoning bylaws, as well as requirements of what can go where, and the distance requirements from different facilities. So the bylaw itself would be addressing those parameters that are not currently addressed at the provincial level, at the Smoke-Free Ontario Act level. So the bylaw department would be addressing and enforcing those parameters. The health unit would continue to enforce the existing legislation that's in place. So that still continues to do our inspections, our youth access inspections, our education. That doesn't change. The change at the legislative level of an act is a lot more complicated, and it takes a lot longer than what a municipality can enact relatively quickly to protect its own citizens. And there is some responsibility at the municipal level as well.
I don't know if you're aware that when I was on the health unit board, I'm going to go back to 2018, maybe, 2018, 2019, I brought forward a motion to ban the transportation and sale of tobacco products by the year 2030. That did not pass the board. They turned it down. Now, that was giving 12 years for the merchants of tobacco to be able to move into other businesses and to not take the hit. But the health unit at that time didn't see that it was feasible to do, so that never went forward. And I guess from my point of view, and Councillor Yo seems to be sort of on the same page, we have limited numbers of bylaw officers, and to put the onus somewhat on them is certainly increasing the cost to the municipality. And I think I take your point about the water pipes. I think that's, that's not going to harm anybody because we don't have any places that do that. Vaping and tobacco smoke, when I look at our smaller hamlets and towns, to try and remove them, the distances you're talking from schools and where youth gather, I think you're basically putting them out of business. And so it would be a hardship on those folks who own those businesses, and I think a hardship on the municipalities to do that. But, the water pipe thing, I think, is quite feasible. But certainly, the correspondence is on the agenda for today, and we'll get to that. In the meantime, I do have another question. Councillor Warren?
If I could just respond, Mr. Mayor. The ask or the recommendation is not to affect the existing businesses. So the existing businesses that are established will continue to be operating. The ask there for the distance requirement of the 300 meters that's been recommended is to be input into our zoning bylaws to address new businesses coming in. Just recently, we had a GTA Vapes that opened up right across from two schools. And that's inappropriate in trying to denormalize and prevent kids from having access. And that's where the gist of what we're presenting here is all about.
Thank you. Councillor Warren?
Yeah, through you, and thank you for stating that when we banned smoking back a ways, that municipalities then have a critical mass of municipalities that will pass a bylaw, and then that would go to the province, and it would be easier to make a law. Like smoking and pesticide use, those are two things that I know the municipality has done over the years that ended up in some legislative changes from the province. So anyway, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Ashmore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. As far as communicating with the federal government, so the federal government loves the money that comes in from cigarette sales. Have you, they put new packaging on. I'm not a smoker, but I'm not against anybody who smokes, but you look at the packages and they've done their thing. They put the warnings on, and the merchants have abided. They have to, and they have to make a living too. But have you ever had any consultation with the federal government on how they could maybe, they're the ones that are basically reaping the benefits of the taxes. I don't know what they do with it, but they tax primarily the biggest tax taker, I guess, of tobacco products. Have you had much conversation with the federal government on how they would help us, or if you have?
I would say we often prepare position statements on tobacco and health-related issues. I can't recall any recent interaction with the federal government. Since 2018, a lot of our tobacco control resource centers have been defunded. So some of the, organizations like the Non-Smokers' Rights Association and some programs run through Canadian Cancer Society, and they've been defunded. So some of our advocacy towards the federal level has been weakened as a result of some of this provincial defunding. We still take a stand in terms of our own advocacy, and certainly when asked, we present an evidence-based position statement to influence public opinion and government. But at the moment, I don't believe there's any current consultations with the federal government.
So if I could just add to what Dervala's mentioned, there is communication between Ministry of Health and the feds, so Health Canada. So I sit on the provincial managers meeting with the province, and the representatives from the Ministry of Health do have conversations with Health Canada on new products that are coming on. But you're absolutely right. The feds are quite slow in reacting. The vape epidemic that we currently have is as a result of inaction at both the provincial and the federal level.
Thank you. And finally, at one time, City Kawartha Lakes, formerly Victoria County, around Pontypool area, had probably the best land in Ontario to grow tobacco. There were many tobacco growers here and in Clarington, and of course in southwestern Ontario, Oxford County mainly. But so the government put a stop to the growers, and then now the tobacco companies are importing this tobacco from Mexico, South America, southern US, like it's just, it came back to bite us, I guess basically what I'm saying is that, you know, we thought we were going to be, the government thought they were going to do a great job and just about put all the tobacco growers out of business, but then the tobacco came back into the country through other means. So, I mean, I know it's not, you can't do much about that, but it's kind of ironic how it kind of went full circle. But anyways, thanks for your presentation and your work.
I would add that, you know, tobacco use is not just sort of an individual lifestyle choice. It is heavily shaped by the tobacco industry, who for many years has been quite predatory in their marketing strategies. There was a proliferation of misinformation and disinformation. So we do have a fairly powerful and well-resourced foe in the tobacco industry, and we seem to always be kept on our toes to keep up.
Thank you, and I'll close with this. I note that Hollywood has latched on to smoking again, and it seems to be becoming more prevalent in some of the up-and-coming stars of the day taking up tobacco, and that's not a good thing. I mean, despite my previous protestations, I do not support tobacco or the smoking or use of it, and would like to see it disappear.
Yes.
But I think there's the reality of commerce and life as well. So thank you very much for coming today. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And that's passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move now into presentations, and we have, oh, apparently I have to do correspondence. The correspondence from Dr. Thomas Pigott, Medical Officer of Health and Chief Executive Officer for Lakelands Public Health, regarding a recommendation for a municipal bylaw and associated enforcement program to address the growing harms of tobacco, vape, and water pipe establishments be received, and that the recommendation be brought forward to council for consideration at the next regular council meeting. Deputy Mayor Richardson, Councillor MacDonald. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that passed. Yeah. Next up, we have the Department of National Defense Arctic Over the Radar project. Irvin Moricelli, Department of National Defense, will be presenting, and they'll be here in just a couple of minutes. Good afternoon and welcome to Kawartha Lakes Council. Whenever you're ready to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Irv. I'm a project manager at the Department of National Defense. With me here is Sherry, also a project manager with the department. So before I begin, I just do want to say I realize that this project does bring about a number of questions. I'm here to speak about a specific item of the project, but by all means, as we move forward into the months and years to come, at any time, if there are questions, if there is a desire to have a presentation or engagement from the department on any aspect of the project, please don't hesitate, and we will be here. Today, I would like to specifically speak to associated road allowances or proposals, options on road allowances associated with the project. I realize that decisions and discussions happen elsewhere, but just to provide perhaps a little bit of clarity and answer any questions that may arise or may have arisen in engagements to date. So I'll start at the top of the map and move to the south. Start at the north, move to the south. In the middle, I will highlight Zero Thistle Trail, which forms the initial parcel that was purchased by the department And adjacent, just to the north, is 185 Thistle Trail, which was subsequently purchased by the department for the project. So at the north, in orange, we have, orange and green, we have a few routes, Honeysuckle Road, Thistle Trail, which are proposed as construction haul routes to bring material and equipment to the site off of County Road 41. I will also highlight then in blue, municipal road allowances between the two sites, between 0 and 185 Thistle Trail, as well as on the western boundary. Road allowances that are important, that are key to the successful implementation of the important capability. And then in the south, in purple, some proposals, options really for bringing hydro to the site. There is currently no hydro at the site. There's a requirement to bring a significant amount of hydro to the site. We are in discussions with Hydro One as to how that would occur. But nevertheless, that's something that we haven't nailed down yet, but nevertheless form part of the presentation today. So where are we currently on those road allowances, and what are we seeking from the city, from mayor and council? For all of the road allowances, we do require some improvements, some works to be undertaken. Before those works are undertaken, we do require a standard process, those studies, archaeological studies, environmental studies, in some cases other studies to be conducted on those road allowances. Our proposal is for all of those road allowances to engage a local rights holders, a local firm associated through the Williams Treaties First Nations, to undertake the study work for those road allowances. And then down the road, once the studies are completed, we would seek to procure as a work package, work to improve upon those road allowances as is required. Certainly for the construction haul routes, there's a fair amount of improvement that should be done to the roads, which National Defence would seek to engage, as well as potentially along those hydro routes, some works depending on whether that line is overground or below ground, something that still has yet to be worked out. But what we do know is that Hydro One will bring hydro as far as that little star there in the south, North Mountain Road, and then National Defence, working with the city, would be responsible for bringing hydro the remainder of the way into the site. So the immediate requirement is really to get those studies underway, which we would seek to do through that firm associated with the Williams Treaties First Nations, and then to undertake the actual construction as a work package, which we would again seek to do so respecting the presence of local rights holders. We are working on the exact procurement language, but that is the intent for actually conducting that work. We are seeking to conduct that work in response to Government of Canada timelines. In order to best meet those timelines, we are seeking to undertake that road construction work in the fall of 2026, and we are seeking to undertake those studies effectively in the short term to get us to that fall of 2026 or thereabouts timeline, which would mean we are seeking some direction from council in the May timeframe regarding the acquisition, regarding whether it's a lease or some other instrument for those roads, to allow that construction to happen, and likewise an instrument or perhaps a license to allow D&D to have that firm undertake the studies along those roads. So that is really what I wanted to talk about today, just to articulate those, the roads, the construction routes leading to the site, the routes adjacent to the site, and then the hydro routes or proposals to the south of the site. The one anomaly, if I may, because the intent is, although National Defence would, if allowed to acquire that interest, undertake that work as described, there is a requirement, well, number one, we would keep those roads open throughout. We're not looking to halt or otherwise limit public access along those road allowances, with the exception of that one segment between 0 Thistle and 185 Thistle Trail. That particular segment, that blue segment, we would seek to close that route, but rebuild that route on the north side of 185 Thistle Trail, wholly within D&D owned land. So although we would be required to close that particular segment, we would rebuild it on D&D land to the north, a few hundred meters to the north, to retain that public thoroughfare that currently exists. Perhaps I'll pause now, Mr. Mayor, Council, for any questions, clarifications.
Any questions for the deputant? Goodness. Councillor Gill.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. There's a great deal of public, I'll call it curiosity just as much as it is public angst about this whole thing. And I take it that the Department of Defense isn't having any second thoughts about not coming here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Leo, the department has announced that this site would be a transmit site, or will be a transmit site, for the first stage of the radar, and then in Clearview Township there is a receive site, and that land has also been identified. So the Government of Canada has made that announcement that this land is to be developed for that transmit site.
Okay, so just getting past that hurdle of no second guessing. Now these roads, and I understand the definite and the obvious reason to want the one section between the two pieces of property, it only makes sense. But what kind of commitment, and besides standing at a podium with the display, what kind of commitment and contract or something will the public have that these roads will in fact be open and will remain open in the future?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so that is I suppose whatever commitment that the city would require to have that level of confidence, National Defense we would sign on to. In short, to allow for the Department of National Defense to undertake studies or those road improvements, the department needs to have that interest in the road, whether it's through a lease or an acquisition for a period of time, for the long term. We're not suggesting certainly that in the long term that these roads or road allowances, roads once improved, would remain in the interest of the Department of National Defense. Really, the intent of acquiring that interest is to allow for those road improvements or to allow for that installation of hydro to support the capability. Not suggesting it's within the mandate of the department to retain those road allowances longer than we would require for the implementation, sir.
Thank you, and just to follow up to that, and you mentioned the First Nations, so they too are the third party involved in this discussions.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, we meet regularly with the Williams Treaties First Nations on the progress of the work. This proposal is something that I introduced just about a week ago as a venue to have progress on the road allowances, if you will, but also meet some of the concerns of the Williams Treaties First Nations.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you. Thanks very much for the presentation. My questions are aligned with Councillor Yeo. In the grand scheme of things, then, how does the department address the public concerns?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I suppose it would depend on those specific concerns. If there are concerns with access along road allowances, then certainly in whatever agreement, those could be codified. I'm not suggesting that we would ever seek to limit that public access aside from that one segment. Other concerns, Deputy Mayor, it would really depend on what those concerns are. Environmental concerns, for instance, are one item that also come up. We have environmental regulators, whether it's a city-run process or if we were to acquire that license or lease or other instrument, we have environmental regulators at the federal level. We also receive a lot of input from the Williams Treaties First Nations, and we're looking to implement all of those inputs as we will eventually get into a site concept, into a design to best meet those concerns.
Just to follow up to that, if you don't mind. Okay, so is there any specific examples how you've used public feedback and how it's actually influenced the project planning to date?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. The environment is is an easy example because there have been a number of issues raised. You can see, for instance, if you look at the Zero Thistle Trail parcel in the southeast, there is a significant wetland feature, and we are modifying and working very hard to ensure that that project footprint does not impede upon that significant wetland feature in the southeast. There are challenges with what the site requires, but we are looking to minimize any impact on those sensitive environmental features. Where there are species at risk impacted, then likewise through our regulator, but also through public input, we seek to minimize and to address, mitigate, in some cases, offset those impacts.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks very much, Mayor, and thank you for coming today. A question I'm curious about is, you're talking about the work on the roads and the access roads, and you'd mentioned that the decision had been taken by the federal government and D&D to establish this radar system here in our area. D&D has a long history of putting security apparatus in local communities, deciding first, asking public questions later. And I'm just wondering, with that, if what you're presenting today meets with resistance or is unable to be done, would D&D simply expropriate the land and proceed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're not talking about anything other than seeking that access to the site at this point. All of these road allowances really serve to either bring material or equipment or utilities to the site. So this is what we're seeking to do in a way that best addresses the wear and tear that otherwise such activities would cause.
And were it not provided, would D&D proceed to expropriate the land for its use?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're not talking about that at all, Councillor. We're talking about working with the city, working with local rights holders in order to achieve that level of access that allows for that implementation.
Great, thank you. And just one more or so, if I could, Mayor. Have you costed out or do you have information on the number of jobs that this project would create, local jobs, a commitment to local employment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there we do have, I don't have those figures, we do have in a grand sense the amount of jobs that are created because of a project of this size, but noting your question is about local jobs. As we have federal procurement policies to follow and competitive processes to follow. There has been an announcement on the firms that have been awarded the work as those, if you will, those prime contractors. That's not to say that there aren't additional work packages that need to be brought about, such as the road allowance work package that I mentioned, that will be undertaken by other than those prime contractors. So there are opportunities, there will be opportunities, but what is the scale of those opportunities? How will the work be partitioned? There are those competitive processes to nevertheless that we are obliged to follow.
I would submit those federal procurement processes often don't privilege or favor local employment and local procurement. My last question is perhaps the most serious. Part of military doctrine in the event of armed conflict is to strike communications and radar infrastructure. That's not theoretical, that's doctrine. Has a threat assessment been done and a safety assessment done for local residents, as was stated earlier by the deputant?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm the project manager for the infrastructure component of the project. So really who has the authority to answer that question is someone in uniform. And by all means, I would suggest that we could have that discussion with someone in uniform. But the whole intent of building this sort of facility is to prevent, much like other warning systems that exist across the country, the system is designed to, as intended to, along with a whole series and system or series of other systems, is to, the whole point of this is to prevent that sort of occurrence.
Thank you. And so would you be able to commit to providing us with a contact in uniform to follow up on the threat assessment question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely, Councillor.
And how and when would that be done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
How and when would that be done?
Oh, I am sure that there are personnel in the department listening to this presentation right now, but regardless, those people are an email away, so I would contact those people and bring them to an appropriate committee or meeting as mayor and council saw fit.
Well, I'll say hello then to those people who may be watching and look forward to getting that information soonest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to speakers today. Thanks for coming. Just a couple of quick questions on, there's been a lot of question about aircraft movement around the site, whether it be civilian, private aircraft, commercial aircraft, air ambulances. Have you had any dialogue with these representatives in that industry at all in your discussions with local?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. Yes, absolutely. That is a separate team. That is a separate team, in fact, of urban planners, if you will, that are looking at that, what sort of restrictions may need to be put in place, and what is the solution. I can't answer that myself, though.
Okay, and finally, the health questions about the electromagnetism and radiation that potentially could be or will be there. Have you done the health studies, let alone the threat assessment? Are you doing health studies? And who has done them, and or will they be done, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. I say yes because any site that National Defence designs and occupies must follow the same Health Canada safety codes that any other site with non-ionizing radiation has. So, in short, any hazard area that exists because of antennas on the site, because of that heat radiation, needs to be wholly contained within the confines of the site. So that perimeter fence around the site, there is no hazard area outside that perimeter fence. That isn't a choice. There aren't extra special rules for National Defence. We are obliged to follow the same rules. So there will be a hazard area within the site, contained with wholly within that site, not extending beyond the perimeter of the site.
Councillor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Perry asked a lot of my questions, but really there wasn't a really hard and fast answer. So if the city doesn't give DND the use or approval of the road allowance, what's the next step for DND? Is it expropriation? Like, let's say we just absolutely don't do it. Say no. That's not a possibility, is it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we are only looking at, and I don't see why we wouldn't be able to, working with the city, working with rights holders, other stakeholders, find a way to enable that access to the site for the construction and for the hydro. We're not looking at anything else other than working with the municipality and those rights holders and stakeholders.
Just for your edification, that's the Canadian Shield, so it's going to be very difficult to do hydro underneath. Just saying. Thanks.
So, seeing no more questions, can I get a mover and a seconder for receipt of the presentation? Councillor Yeo, Councillor Warren. Seeing nothing more, all in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much for coming today, and I'm sure we'll be in touch as this moves forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. So we'll move on to consent matters, and I have a motion that all of the proposed recommendations shown in section 8.1 of the agenda be approved by the Committee of the Whole in the order that they appear on the agenda, sequentially numbered and forwarded to Council for consideration at the next regular Council meeting, save and except items 8.1.3 and 8.1.6. I have a mover and seconder. Councillor Perry. Councillor McDonald. All in favor? And that's passed. 813 is yours, Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I talked to staff, I talked to Manager Frenelli about, I had some questions regarding, my question was what the term full retention period was. So when we have records, and we've had records for decades in this municipality, and what is the criteria to destroy records? I didn't like the word disposal of records. So when I'm reading this paragraph, when records complete their full retention period and are up for the disposal, the records are either A, destroyed in a secure manner, or B, transferred to an archival services program. So my concern was, I didn't want to see, older records be destroyed, use the word, because we may need them down the road, like to do research for example, a road. For example, I'll give you an example, just locally. Lilac Road, south between Peace Road and Highway 7, it was closed for many years. And then we found out that, the Township of Ops actually did maintain that road, that section of Lilac Road, and it was restored back to Four Seasons services. That's just one example. But if it wasn't for the records, we wouldn't have had that information. But there are many, many other records. All I wanted to know was that our records will not be, any records will not be destroyed, and who would be making the decision to, I guess I'll use the word destroy or dispose of records. Like I think it's a very important topic, and it needs to be clarified, that's all.
Did you get an answer?
Well, the answer was basically, the answer was, and I'll just look it back here, that staff would make the decision. Basically, it would be made internally. So that was basically the answer. So the decisions would be made internally. So I don't know if some things would come back to council if they need be, but that's all. That's what I got back. But I want to thank Manager Fenelli for getting back to me, but I just thought I'd put that out there. Like I'll move it, but I just want to make sure that all our records are kept. Keeping records are obviously one of the most important things that anybody could do in their personal life or their business life or their, our case, municipal records, because we have such a long history of a database of information that's really critical to keep to fall back on. So as long as they're kept and not destroyed, that's all I'm putting out there. But I just was kind of concerned with kind of the terminology that was in the report about disposal of records. So
are you moving the motion?
Well, I'll move it, yeah, but I'll move it as printed.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Yo. All in favor? And that's passed. So the next one is item 8.1.6, which is 2026 Life Cycle Extension Program. Councillor McDonald, that's yours.
Thank you. Through you. I did have the opportunity to talk to Manager Farquhar, and a couple questions have come out. My first question is from our road tour, the roads that have never made it on the list, how are we going to deal and address that? My first question.
Manager?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Thank you for the question. So we, the second week of April, we did a tour of several different road locations within all the wards, and that was kind of a recommendation from the Roads Task Force to meet with councillors or individual ward issues to review some of those roads. So we do here in the report, there's an overlap of roads identified in Table 2 where staff's recommendations do line up with councillors' recommendations. However, there are also road segments identified the same way in Table 4. Table 4 is unfunded works, whereas Table 2 exhausts our budget allowed for within 2026. any of the segments within the road tours with council that don't fall within Table 2 or 4, we will review and either capture through minimum maintenance standards. So Public Works would still apply the minimum maintenance standards to those segments that aren't being treated in 26. And any segments that are outside Table 2, in Table 4, we carry over and review in upcoming capital forecasts or future life cycle budgets.
Okay, thank you. So that leads me to the next question then. MMS. Do we have a budget for MMS? Do we keep track of the dollars spent on MMS? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes when we do work on MMS, it's done and only lasts for a day or a week. And so if you can, whoever can answer that, I think that Public Works possibility.
Yeah, through you to the councillor. For sections of road that are problematic in a long-term scenario, Public Works can and does create a specific work order for sections of road, and we continually add whatever work we're doing onto that piece of road to that work order so we can track overall how much money we spend on problematic sections of road. We don't do it everywhere because it's extra administration, but we can do it and do it for places where the road is causing us trouble.
Thank you. That would be nice to have as we go through budgets, and I'd really like to know how much money we spend on MMS. There's a lot of man hours that go into MMS, and it would be really nice to know the dollars that we spend on that. Another question I have is my understanding that staff has their priorities, council has their priorities. Who makes the decision?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. So this report, as outlined, even the recommendations of the task force, staff does bring forward these recommendations, and they are operationally driven. But with the report, as it is a received report, these are the recommendations that staff will be implementing.
Okay, I don't know who makes that decision, but anyway. So some roads that aren't worth patching, would we consider pulverizing them? And I don't know what the cost compared to MMS is, and that's where I'm getting to, is that if we pulverize a road instead of the MMS, are we saving money or does it cost more? Because it's hard to make those decisions if we can't, if us around the table here don't know what the cost of MMS is compared to pulverizing.
Let's get out there that MMS stands for minimum maintenance standards.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows.
Okay. So again, that's the reason why we should consider pulverizing unless somebody can tell us that it's cheaper to do MMS as we go forward. Also, my last request is that could we have a list of all the plans of all the roads that we looked at on a list that weren't considered, and what the consideration for those roads are in the future, because there's a lot of roads missed. So could we just have a list of all the roads, because we went on this roads tour for a reason. So why don't we take all the roads that weren't on the table 2, 3, and 4, and then put them on table number 5 to say, because some of them I understand that might be in 2027, I'd like to see a list of those roads if that's possible.
Through you, Mayor. So staff, we can email out the list of roads that were within the tour that we did with council relative to where they sit within the current forecast or if they're outside the current forecast.
So I will make a motion, though, that we can have a list of all the roads, and if I get a second of it. Okay, thanks.
Well, I think the manager got the message, and am I correct? You will be sending out the list? We don't need a motion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't believe a motion is required. We can just email that out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Councillor Ashmore.
Oh, thank you. Just the whole purpose of this roads tour, and it was really good, and it was a great idea to get members of council and staff out there to look at it. And as Councillor McDonald said, like there are many roads here that maybe we should have, like, it would have been nice to see which ones were prime candidates for pulverization. Like, we know that, like, the Orange Corners area and then Drum Road, certainly that part of it's on there, but, you know, Bridle Road and Halter Road and Monarch Road, like, just, you have to see it to believe it. Like, they're really in, say, critical condition, but in rough condition. And so, like, there should be some sort of a projection or a list of what these roads that could be pulverized, and that's a good method, like pulverization. Now, just my question is through you two, Public Works. I was talking to Director Rojas this morning, and thanks for calling me back. Now, so the MMS, basically the life cycle extension program, it's divided between engineering and Public Works. So Public Works looks after the MMS requirements, for example, slurry sealing, for example, like, are the lists, who makes up the list for, not slurry sealing, patching, and because that, yeah, sorry, yeah, and the patching, and it's, it works really good. Also, yeah, I'll ask that question, like, patch smearing, that's the term. So does Public Works decide the candidates, the roads that are going to be patch smeared, which does serve a good purpose, and it helps out roads that do not make the list here?
Through you to the councillor. Yes, Public Works does decide where to do grader smears. We don't create a year-over-year list of where those grader smears are going to be created. They're essentially a longer lasting pothole patch. So when we have areas that are deteriorated and have a lot of cold patch going into them, for us to apply hot mix asphalt to that area creates an efficiency for the department and a better driving surface for the public for a longer period of time. It's just an efficiency. We don't do what engineering does, which is go drive around and make condition assessments and make a list of where we're going to do grader smears. So it is driven largely at the depot level as to where those grader smears are going to go based on where they are going out to cold patch frequently.
Okay, and just one more question. Through you to Director of Public Works. For example, like we have, for example, Highway 36. It goes through 4 wards, 7, 5, 6, and 2, and it's a very important highway, and we have crack sealing. We've done a lot of crack sealing on that road, and I've noticed that there's been shoulder sealing. The asphalt is starting to give way in some areas. So obviously, these things need to be done. They're maintenance, but how does that, when they find that this is happening all the time, does that put up a flag that road, for example, or parts of that road could go, or any other road could go into a list where it has to be either pulverized? I'm not saying pulverize Highway 36, but it has to be kept paved. But I mean, but that road is really critical, and we haven't even got that on our 5-year plan, like Highway 36. And that's probably their highest traveled road, like that we own, not as much as Highway 7 or 35, but it's the third. I think it's the third. It's the highest traveled road in Kawartha Lakes that we own. But how do we get those roads in the queue in the future, because they're continually being crack sealed and yeah, I guess just kept going through life through these programs, which are important, but they need to get on that list where they have to get repaved like in the future, but they're not on the list right now.
Through you to the councillor, if we're going to talk about Highway 36, so crack sealing and other measures like crack sealing are part of life cycle extension, is to keep our good roads as good as they can be for as long as they can be. And for an arterial highway like Highway 36, first of all, we would never do a grader smear on Highway 36. That would be, if there was a section that we would even consider doing that on, we would likely cut out a piece of it and repave it, and that would be a small piece, not anything large. And engineering, when they do their roads needs assessment, will absolutely identify high-volume roads that are in need of resurfacing and retreatment long before they get to a critical state.
Okay.
Councillor Perry.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I've just got a few comments akin to those raised by Councillor McDonald. I know that Roads Task Force, we did a couple of things. We tried to change minimum municipal standards in terms of the language into provincial maintenance standards so that the implication isn't given that only the minimum is being done, as it's often exceeded on a case-by-case basis. But I digress. I was just going to talk about the report, and thank you for the report. It's more around questions of more information and, in future reporting, perhaps including a rationale as to why roads tour roads did not appear, what the process was for the criteria of selection to be raised by staff, in the interest of transparency, and especially when it's been done before, and the Roads Task Force reiterated the idea of a roads tour, councillor direct involvement in the selection of roads, having that right, on the ground, no pun intended, input and reaction. It was a great roads tour, but in terms of it translating into roads, if they're not there, perhaps there's, a need. In fact, I believe there is a need for a rationale as to why those particular roads, didn't make the final cut. Also, I'd like to recommend a costing. So I know you provide a total, but how much does each road that has been suggested or didn't make the list would actually cost in terms of dollars? And I know that information is available, and Public Works has been great in providing that to at least me on other occasions. So those would be my two comments. I know Wagger and Potts Shore, for example, in Ward 3, made the undercut list. So it didn't bubble up or make the main list to be done. But we also looked at Bulmers and Cedar Street Roads and West Street, a lot of resident concern. And so, again, for information and transparency, including how those decisions were made, even a couple of bullets on each would be, I would say, helpful and necessary moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. To engineering, I fully recognize this list is based on needs, and you take the politics out of it, and as you should, and that's how the decisions are made. Having said that, the roads on that list are got to be wildly worse than my worst wards in Ward 4, but so be it. But I was surprised that, and I'll talk to you offline on this, that it didn't, even though they're not being done in the table 4, that I didn't get a few roads there. But I'll talk to you later after what the criteria is to get on that list. Crack sealing. We can get a list of roads that will be faced with, they'll have some crack sealing treatment. Is that something we can get from you, or are we even there yet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can also include that. Right now in the report, it identifies for the program carrying on CKL 45 and migrating, heading toward west, where we left off close to Kidmount last year. There are other roads we've seen that we've done overlays on in the last 5 to 6 years. Over this winter, with frost penetration being what it was, has shown some cracking. So we've looked at including those roads in addition to the work being done on 45 as well. But I can share those locations.
Thank you. It's Royal Oak and Laurenville are a particular concern for me. They're fairly new roads. If we can get on top of that to maintain it, to save them, would be great. My next, just one more question, Mr. Mayor, and that's to Director Roja. What would be, and sort of throw a curveball at you like this, if we were to say double the budget of the life cycle extension to $4 million per year, but at the same time pull $2 million out of the 5-year annually roads budget. So budget-wise, it's the same, it's just a different direction of applying those monies. At the end of the day, we would see more roads on our Table 2 list. What's your comment on that, if I may ask?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the programs are different, right? The rural resurfacing or the urban arterial resurfacing are a full shave and pave program. So basically the road is at the end of its life and we will renew it. The life cycle extension is a Band-Aid. So the thicknesses of the asphalt are different. So you get more bang for your buck resurfacing the road. So they're not equivalent. And as the Public Works Director said, as Oliver said, the theory behind life cycle extension is twofold. One is keeping our good roads good. That's why you see the slurry seal, the rejuvenation, those elements in that program in order for those roads not to go into disrepair. We do recognize that there are some roads are in that gray area. You can't really rehabilitate them, so you have to put a Band-Aid so that they hold over for another 4 or 5 years. So that's the intent. So you're not really comparing apples to apples. So by reducing the rural resurfacing program, you're taking away money from a full rehabilitation to buy more Band-Aids, right, under the life cycle extension. Ultimately, I think there would be a negative return on your investment. To answer another question, it is cyclical. So we do an evaluation of all our roads every 5 years. So the question on, how do we keep the list current? So and we've just hired a contractor this year for our roads needs. They are starting this year, and we will bring our new roads needs report and our 5-year plan in 2027 for council adoption. So every 5 years, we hire a consultant to independently survey and identify our roads. And then at the midterm, so 2 to 2.5 years in that 5-year program, staff brings an update. And we've been consistently doing that for the last 15 years. So that's how we right-size or we update our budget. And that may push some roads into our 5-year, push some roads out. So that's our checks and balances. So basically every 5 years, we rehaul the roads needs study or update it. And then at the 2 or 3 year term of that 5-year, we bring an update to see how we're doing. In terms of how decisions are made, council ultimately makes the decision. So council set the budget for our roads need, for our life cycle extensions. We, with council input and with Public Works, provided a list to you. That's why we're at committee of the whole. No decisions are being made. We recommend that you follow our recommendation, but ultimately council can chop up that list how they see fit. Again, I recommend you not do that, but ultimately council does have the final decision.
A follow-up question? And I'm fully on board, Director Rojas. We don't want any infighting here. We got to go with your list, okay? So I'm good with that. But back to your point about the Band-Aid. I get that for an arterial road, but if you do a life cycle extension paved road for like a small neighborhood road, is that also a patch, or is that a full-on resurfacing for?
I'll turn it over to the manager in a minute, but the thickness of the life cycle extension is less than a full resurfacing. For example, a full resurfacing is typically 40 to 50 mils depth of asphalt, where a life cycle extension is 20 mils or less. There are what we call larger potholes. So if there's excessive potholes in a section of road, we do a section of road, but it's limited in size. But I'll ask Mike to add on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, typical thickness just for those maintenance overlays are 40 mils or less. And knowing, well, we do through that life cycle program, the asphalt overlays, within some communities we'll do a full section because they're shorter meterage, right? So they could be 150 meters or up to 500 meters. Knowing eventually we could get some reflective cracking, but that comes back then to monitoring. In those periods we do get reflective cracking to then crack seal them, right? Doing so, we see a longer life expectancy sometimes in those built up residential areas than if we had to pulverize and then re-high float, as well as disturbance. Doing an overlay is quite a bit less disturbing to residents and quicker to achieve than having to walk in and pulverize the whole road section within a residential area.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, through you. Maybe just an observation and maybe a quick question. This is a pretty lean, mean, table 2, table 3. Clearly has a lot to do with how much funds are available. We're seeing probably less this year because of we don't have any OSIF funding, right, moving forward this year as well. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Typically, over the last few years, as council's seen reports for the life cycle come forward, there has been additional funding, or council has found additional funding to do Table 4 works. Last year was a good example where there was a OSIF funding available, and council elected to do additional works that were identified in last year's Table 4 report. This year, we don't have that ability.
Okay, follow up on that note. So moving forward, observation-wise, we're seeing a list of unfunded work identified. So has staff, how are we going to manage that backlog? And how do we manage that over time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the list as identified in Table 4 then has to be prioritized with Public Works for the minimum maintenance as it's for the current year, as well as we would then look at that Table 4 balance and then identify the priorities within our updated forecast or next year's life cycle program.
Thank you. And this year, we're going to be redoing the next 5-year road study, so a lot of things may be captured in that, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So we're just in the process of doing the RFP scoring, which will be completed, and then that consultant will be conducting that roads needs review. In addition to that, the city is piloting software where within our patrol trucks, there is cameras that are then picking up similar deficiencies. Is kind of looking at as part of through our modernization with the city on capturing those deficiencies in between those roads need studies, because we are, as Director Rojas had said, every 5 years we do that study. So in the interim, we're not getting an overall collective health of that network. So through looking at different modernization softwares, right now we're trialing, it gives us an opportunity to see a collective health of the network in between those studies.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I just had just a comment and around our input into this. And Councillor Joyce had mentioned, keeping the politics out, and I understand totally where he's coming from. I just want to make what I think is a very important point in that, councillors, us as councillors, looking at the roads, relaying our constituents' concerns or their perspectives. We're such a big area. We rely on our constituents using the roads every day for information. So I just didn't want to be, especially coming from the Roads Task Force, where this was affirmed on level of public input and how we as councillors are to marshal that and to be included in things like road stewards. I didn't want that to be confused with somehow capital P politicizing the process, as it is often cynically known.
We wouldn't want to do that.
We certainly wouldn't, Mayor. I raised the point in good faith.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, through you. Just one more discussion to talk about. When we only had $630,000 to move forward with, which wasn't a lot of money. So I got to admit the great work from staff to take that money and do the best they could. So, and if you look at table 4, it's probably about over $1 million just for the unfunded. Plus, that's not counting the roads that are unidentified. So that's could be in the millions, right? That's why I would like to talk about the MIS again, because we need to know what the budget is and how much we're spending on that. Maybe we can take some of that money and get some of these roads done because we know it doesn't last, right? We're only doing patching that lasts for a week or two, sometimes only lasts for a day. So let's see, I'd like to see the dollar amount for the minimum maintenance standard, and then maybe we can take some of that money and do some roads, right? And be more proficient on use your word there, Mr. Perry. So, but anyway, that's my comment. But good job for the money we had to do. We're in a financial bind right now. We all know that. And we have to make sure that we stay on track to keep in line. Okay, thanks.
Councilor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. Do insurance claims play a part in this at all?
Through you to the councillor. We do recover funds depending upon what the circumstances are through claims. They're more related to people striking and damaging things than to generalized surface disrepair. So if somebody hits some of our infrastructure, if we have the information, we do try to recover funds through insurance. Not so much through potholes, no.
Councilor Ashmore.
Thank you. Through you to Director Bukaboom. Just talking about the roads, like in the roads that we looked at, these were the worst of the worst, and the councillors who listen to the people and they know that these are the worst. How could we get for example, during the budget, we tapped into the asset management reserve to get some roads done for pulverizing. Is there a way, or I know they're there for the rainy day, as they say, these reserves, and you get the likes of Bridle Road and Monarch Road and those roads that are in really rough shape that need to be done. Like, can we cost them out? Hopefully they'll be costed out. Like what it would be for example, pulverize them, but can we look at and see what it would be to take it out of a reserve? Because in the whole scheme of things, I mean, I don't think it'd be a huge amount of money, but it's money. But I think would that be possible to look into that? Because we have done that before when we added roads on, and we did it in the capital budget.
I'd say that our reserves at that time were much healthier than they are right now after last year's events. But Ms. Bukaboom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the councillor. I think you did quite accurate on that, Mr. Mayor. On April 21st, when we brought forward the deficit disposition for 2025, and I recall at the time, councillor, you asked if any of that money could go into operations or roads, but those reserves were being fully utilized to fund that deficit to the tune of the 16.8 million. So our reserves at this point, I could not recommend that there is any surplus money sitting in those reserves at the moment. The only opportunity to fund some of those, and I don't think we want to go there either, is that if there's a surplus in a project, something could be closed, and then at that time council could consider. But again, I wouldn't recommend that because our reserves are in a situation where they need top-ups to them at this point in time.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Just a note on the previous councillor's comment, that putting the onus on staff like that, I think that's something the councillor has to bring. If it's a health and safety issue and it's got something that's got to be done, then by all means bring it to the table. But in a situation like that, I just want to say how wonderful the report was. The biggest concern I had on my bus trip was not breaking the bus. But But the biggest one-off in the whole thing was that big pothole at 8 and 121, and geez, I see that little pothole's gotten fixed in there. So no, I'd like to thank staff for the report and the good use of money given to them through the budget process. And it, in my mind, just this conversation shows me in this new world how much maybe an operational review, GASP, is probably needed going into what is going to be a new world, I think, in political theater. Maybe we can't afford to do the things we've been doing. Maybe we got to look at where we're putting the money or where future councils are putting the money. And because it's been a long time since we did one of those, and because we can't keep going the way we're going. It's going the wrong way. So, my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, Councillor MacDonald, it was your extraction, it was Councillor Ashmore's extraction. Do you want to move the report?
I'll move the report.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, you seconding it? Okay. All in favor? And that's passed. Moving on, we now come to petitions. We have one petition to request that the road allowances adjacent to the site of the Arctic Over-the-Horizon Radar Project be retained by the City of Kawartha Lakes. This is an electronic petition with 47 signatures. Anybody want to move that? Councillor Perry, Councillor Yeo, all in favor? And that's passed. New and other business. We're into memorandums, and the first memorandum is regarding an always stop request at Indian Trail and Pleasant Point Road. Councillor MacDonald, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I do. Do I need a second to speak to it?
Sure. Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Yes, just to give you a little bit of history on this one, following a deputation of a local resident, the mayor and I traveled to this location to better understand the concerns that were raised as a resolution that was adopted does not slow down traffic at Pleasant Point Road, because the traffic flows downhill at Pleasant Point Road and the vehicles tend to gather a lot of speed when reaching Indian Trail. This is especially true in the spring and summer months when cottages and boaters return. The installation of always stop would really focus on traffic slow down on the hill and reduce speed and encourage better driving awareness and safety in the community. So that's basically the reason I brought it up, because it's, like I said, a straight downhill, and by the time they get close to that water, they're traveling pretty quick. So this would definitely slow it down. So.
And I think that we spoke to Manager Kelly, and he agreed with bringing a memo to council, and that this will probably stop, I think, about 75% of the problems in that area. It's not going to stop them all, but there are other things we're doing at the same time. I think, Councillor, the Black Cat is going to be installed, and they're looking at some other traffic calming devices further up the road, and probably, and then we'll monitor how well this accomplishes what we're looking for. Well, Councillor Ashmore, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councillor MacDonald and Mayor Elmsley here for spending the time talking to the people down there, and in my absence at the time, and working with staff and meeting individuals in that area. This will help. I mean, there were suggestions of speed bumps, but that did not go over very well, and they're problematic in a way, in their own way. But you know, there's never a perfect solution to any speeding problem, but this will certainly go a long way as these vehicles move down the hill onto approaching the lake, and I think this will bring some sort of calming method of this traffic. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think also traffic going the other way, they tend to scream around the corners, and this will force them to stop, so it could help in that vein as well. So we have a mover and seconder, all in favor, and that's passed. Next, we have a memorandum regarding support for Bill 21, Protect Our Food Act 2025. Councillor Warren, do you want to speak to that?
I do. I'll just, that the memorandum be received, that the city support Bill 21, Protect Our Food Act 2025, and urge the province to continue implementing measures that protect farmland and other agriculture-related lands from further loss, that this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness and local MPP Laurie Scott. So protecting farmland is of critical importance to Kawartha Lakes. It's our #1 industry, and Ontario's food economy, food security, and hundreds of thousands of jobs. Ontario farmers grow more than 200 different crops on 49,600 farms across the province. The sector contributes over $52 billion to the provincial economy, employing over 875,000 people, 1 in 9 Ontario jobs. All of that is at risk because Ontario is losing 319 acres of farmland every day, mostly to expensive and unnecessary sprawl. If passed, the Protect Our Food Act would create a food belt that would permanently protect our agricultural lands from being paved over by establishing a task force of farmers, agricultural experts, and land use planners to develop recommendations for a strong food belt protection plan. So the Ontario Farmland Trust, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Christian Farmers Federation of Ontario, and the National Farmers Union have also endorsed this bill, and this also has gone to our local agriculture advisory committee, and they support it also. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Ashmore, did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, thank Councillor Warren for that, and I believe that it was passed the first reading in the Senate as well. I think it went to the Senate, or okay, so for the entire first reading, I think it was passed. So yeah, it was that was the Soils Act. But this one here, yeah, it did get attention, and I believe Mr. Schreiner, he also was supportive of it as well, of a food belt as opposed to a green belt. So the food belt is, yeah, it's critical. I mean, especially when you're talking about places like the Holland Marsh, and that's in danger of losing. There's nothing like that in the world, I don't think, or in North America anyways. So places like that you cannot replace. This is going to hopefully protect those areas as well as many other areas. So once it's gone, it's gone, and it's the only way to protect it is to at least get some sort of protection in place. Thanks.
Anybody else? No? We have a mover and seconder, or all in favor? And that's passed. Next, we have item 10.3, which is a memorandum regarding drainage issues on Birchmount Court, Pleasant Point. Councillor Ashmore, that's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the roads tour, actually, this was one of the first stops we went, and it's not on the list for a reason, because there's a drainage issue here that needs to be resolved. So we're back in Pleasant Point here. So when we went there, it was just a torrential rain, and we weren't going to get outside because not only the rain, but there was thunder at the time. So didn't want people getting out of the bus looking at it. But the issue is, and it's been described to me, is that there's a swale, there's a public swale that needs to be looked at by staff. And when we saw the rain, we saw the water trying to drain onto Maple Grove. It was going basically, it should be 50-50 on each side of the road, but it's but 85, 90% on one side of the road because the other side, it's not functioning, the ditch isn't functioning. So it's basically a U-shaped swale, but it's over years, it's been built up through sediment. So it'd be great if we could get support for this. The people have asked for this, just to get staff to look at this and report back at the end of, I think it's Q3, that's fine, to see if we can rectify the drainage issue before any work is done on the road itself. So the drainage issues has to be dealt with first. It's not a huge area, it just needs to be done. Appreciate your support.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor McDonald, you want to speak to it?
Yep, I was there that day. It was raining pretty hard, so that's probably why the road was almost getting washed out, but it's worth just having a look at it to see if anything can be done, for sure.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's passed. Item 10.4 is a memorandum regarding Fleming College trade programs. Councillor Doble.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm moving that the memorandum from myself regarding that the city advocate for the advancement and enhancement of trade programs such as the Heavy Equipment Operator Program at the Frost campus of Fleming College, and for the expansion of skilled trades programs currently offered at Sutherland campus to the Frost campus, that the city engage with Fleming College as an active partner in a spirit consistent with our existing partner memorandum of understanding with them to invest in the future development and vibrancy of the Frost campus and to seek out additional opportunities to align our shared priorities with specific interest in trades. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak to this if I could get a seconder.
Councillor Yeo.
Thank you. 2 months ago, I brought forward and council unanimously approved a memorandum requesting increased funding support for Frost campus at Fleming College. And we were gratified to learn shortly thereafter that the province was increasing funding for community colleges and universities. So then last month, it was announced that Fleming College and St. Lawrence College have agreed to begin a formal process to integrate as equal partners. This integration process will take place over the coming year, and we've been assured that there are no plans to close the Frost campus. Further, we are told to anticipate increased programming at the Frost campus by 2027. The words integration always put a little chill down my spine. When institutions form partnerships or merge, there seems to be an inevitable rationalization that may not happen for a year or two, but ultimately becomes a reality. And every time there is a rationalization, somebody loses. I believe that it falls to City Council to hold the college to their word about retaining the Frost campus. Frost stands as a historically significant institution that has contributed for more than 5 decades to the educational, economic, and social fabric of the city of Kawartha Lakes. Its role as a major employer, its nationally recognized academic excellence, and its alignment with Ontario's urgent workforce needs underscore its importance to both the city and the province. Ontario community colleges were originally intended and designed to provide career-oriented post-secondary education that aligns with the immediate and long-term needs of the local labor market. Mr. Mayor, who better than the City of Kawartha Lakes to have input into determining and advising the college as to our local workforce needs? In our Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Kawartha Lakes and Sir Sanford Fleming College, it states clearly that the city shall advocate and support the college in grant and funding opportunities which are deemed to advance and support. In Fleming's most recent strategic plan document, there is a renewed commitment to bringing more skilled trade programs to Fleming. So on the face of it, our goals are aligned. Mr. Mayor, those skilled trades programs need to come to the Frost campus. These programs are already delivered at the Sutherland campus in Peterborough, and they are at capacity. So why not extend this training to the Lindsay campus? The heavy equipment program is nationally recognized, and students are practically guaranteed good jobs upon graduation after 18 to 24 months of training. Industry leaders are prepared to contribute financially so that the college has resources to provide this specialized training because they need more graduates from this program. I continue to hear from graduates, former and current teachers, and I'm in the process of obtaining testimonials from major industry to support this. We know that in the coming years there will be a need for long-term skilled trades as we build more houses, more shopping centers, more power centers, break ground for more infrastructure. The demand will be for the long term. Everyone wins here. Our local students can obtain training in skilled trades that give them good careers. Industry has increased access to local talent, houses are built, and our community prospers. And our college, the Frost campus, continues to serve as a vital, sustainable, and growing driver of socio-educational and economic development. In a recent communication to the city from Ms. Katie Pizulis, Executive Director of Advancement and External Relations at Fleming College, the college and our city are referred to as partners. So let's be true partners so that we may advocate and ensure that the Frost campus remains sustainable and permanent in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Yo, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you. Just very briefly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the motion. Our memorandum, very well written and timely. And as a graduate of the trade program from Sanford Fleming College, very welcome. So thank you for that.
Councillor Perry.
Just very briefly, Mayor, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Doble, for bringing this motion forward. As past governor of Fleming College, I know that the trade shortage here in Kawartha Lakes isn't some abstract notion. Right? It's showing up in our delayed housing, our difficulty in hiring, infrastructure backlogs, and young people having to go outside of our area to seek training and apprenticeships and education. And that's been a top of mind issue as long as I can remember here. How do we keep our young people here? And Fleming College is key to that. It's a national institution and it's a hub. And the MOU that we have in place already commits us to advocate for funding opportunities, and I believe Councillor Doble's motion really asks us to mean it, and I believe we do around this table. So it isn't just about boosting economic development here locally, although it's that. For me anyway, it's also a matter of workforce and employment justice, so that local students are able to stay here for their career and their education in their communities, here in our communities, and not have to drive to Peterborough or beyond. So thanks very much.
Councillor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and yeah, thank you for bringing this forward. It was a sad day when all the students came here when they were cutting all the heavy equipment and some of the environmental courses, and we tried our best to send some information to the province saying that you need to look at this again. So I'm really happy. We just, this is a juncture in which I think with the amalgamation of the two colleges is the time to actually put the push on again. So thanks for bringing this memo forward.
Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, through you. Great memo. Everybody has said just roughly what I was going to say, but I think it's really important that there's a lot of people still here working, and we've hired a lot of people from this Sir Sanford Fleming that are still working in the city of Kawartha Lakes. So that's very important because the skilled trades help us move forward, and it keeps our children at home, and it keeps them living here, and we can raise our kids at home, and I think that's great. So great memo.
Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Doble for it and the enhancement of the trades program. Fleming College is a stellar facility. It's one of the best in the world, and it's world renowned, and certainly worth not only saving but but adding programs to it and bringing them back that were there and expanding the program. So it's a great institution, and certainly proud of it, that it's in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a mover and seconder, so all in favor? And that's passed. Next memo is a memorandum regarding reducing bypasses at the Fenelon Wastewater Treatment Plant. Councillor Perry, that's you.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And unfortunately, this is a recurring issue, has been since I got elected. I know before that, Mayor, and we've tried a lot of different things to prevent the bypassing of the wastewater treatment in Fenelon Falls. And also, I know that has happened here in Lindsay as well. It's becoming more and more urgent. Once is too many, but it's becoming more and more urgent now with climate change and weather changing. We used to have a month called March when things would melt. And now it seems that we have these record snowfalls and a 4-day weekend plus a huge rainstorm, putting so much pressure on the existing systems in Lindsay and in Fenelon Falls that the wastewater treatment plant has to then bypass either its final stage of treatment or treatment entirely. And so, as mentioned, Mayor, we've tried a lot of things, from giving away free rain barrels right through to this council unanimously waiving the building permit fees for anyone who was looking to disconnect their stormwater drain from the sewer system. That does seem to be a substantial impact. I know that Public Works has scoped the Fenelon sewer system. Something that has helped has certainly been the reconstruction of the downtown Main Street in Fenelon, which has had, therefore, no cracks or leakages for infiltration. Inflow, however, is the next rational means to look at, and we have been looking at that. And so I'd like to bring this motion for this memo to go to the next stage of trying to address this problem. The memo went back and forth a bit in the editing process. I know that I want to thank the staff that collaborated on this memo, especially Amber Hayter, who was key in bringing this forward as is. I know that, as you said, Mayor, Q3 would be a reasonable time frame to see if, what other options we might have. And I would encourage a variety of options to be considered. Some other municipalities, for example, have a disconnection subsidy program. It would be nice to see some costing on that as one of the options. Maybe it's affordable, perhaps it's not, but also perhaps that can be spread over, years on a tax bill, or some of the work like disconnecting eaves troughs can be done for free. Again, reference to other municipalities and what they're doing. But we really have to take action on this. Once in the river is simply too many, or here in Lindsay as well. So I'd just like to move, as my memo be accepted, just with one addition, that staff be directed to examine options for reducing bypasses at the Fenelon wastewater and Lindsay wastewater treatment plants, and report back with recommendations, as you mentioned, Mayor, by the end of Q3.
Councillor Dolby, you seconding that? Did you want to speak to it? You're good? Well, okay. We have a mover and seconder. All in favor? And that's passed. 10.6 is yours as well, Councillor Perry, and that's a memorandum regarding road allowance restoration at 168-170 Lakebreeze Road.
Thank you, Mayor. And this memo has to do with cleanup of a road allowance, which is kind of in a unique position in Ward 3. If you look at the pictures that I've provided, it lies really at the cusp of two road allowances, Lakebreeze Road and then a road allowance down to the beach, rather to Cameron Lake. And you can see that during the cleanup or hazard reduction, I think in this case, many maple trees were taken down, many cedars were taken down, and simply left as brush piles and log piles on the road allowance which, as you can see by the houses in the background, in this particular case, sits there. And so what my memo is proposing is this would be a 1 or 2 hour job, but to direct this particular road allowance intersection to be cleaned up, and that also one of the neighbors, actually one of the neighbors immediately adjacent, has offered to donate new cedar trees if the city would partner and be able to plant those. I thought that sounded like a very positive gesture, a possible excellent partnership, and so I would put that forward for consideration by my council colleagues. Mayor, I know you were going to perhaps go out and have a look at the area, and yeah, the photos, I think, speak a thousand words, and I would ask you to please consider this, as Councillor Joyce loves, on an exceptional basis. But to me, this rises to the level, especially with the plantation of trees donated by the neighbor and the extent of the logs and brush that remain in this unique cusp of road allowances. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see if we can get you a seconder. Councillor Joyce, you seconding? Okay, you want to speak to it?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Absolutely, we can't have unsightly road allowance situations like this. We want a Kawartha Lakes that looks good. But my question to Councillor Perry here, I just was reading that it says in your memo, the resident has indicated the contractor was returned at a later date to attend to remaining trees, but did not. So has best efforts been made to chase this contractor down to finish the job?
Thank you for that. I'm going to have to ask staff about that. My understanding is not, because it's been months now in this, second effort undertaken by the city with a contractor who has allegedly not returned. That could fix the whole thing, but there has been no action on that or return reported by the residents to date. Hence, here we are with a memo to council.
Okay, thank you. This is 100% on road allowance.
That's correct, which means, of course, technically, the residents aren't able to effect repairs or clean up, just by having discussed with them back and forth about that point.
Well, I'm in full support of the memo, and provided staff has made the efforts to chase this contractor down and finish the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, through you. Yeah, I just got a couple questions there. You talk about the road allowance, and you said a couple hours to do it. I'd like to know by staff how long it's going to take to clean it up, because it might be more than a couple hours, and it might be more expensive than you think. And I'd also like to know, is there any more road allowances that are going to come forward after this that we might have to add all of these road allowances because it was a terrible storm? So are we opening up a door somewhere that is going to cost a lot of money to do? I'm not sure, but I'd like to know that information first before I make my decision. So,
thank you. Councillor Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you too. Actually, that's where I was going. We don't typically landscape or maintain our road allowances, so I would like to know what kind of cost is associated with it, because you don't want it to be precedent setting.
Well, I have a couple of answers. First and foremost, this is an unopened road allowance, not an open road allowance. Staff have been on site several times to inform the residents the city would not be doing any more work along the road allowance. This all started after the ice storm cleanup. The resident asked for trees to be replanted along the roadside to replace the cedar trees. They're now offering to do that. Staff have both met with the resident on site and advised no more work or cleanup will occur. The trees that were cut down and removed were from the ice storm and completed by the contractor. Staff don't feel any more work needs to be done. I don't feel any more work needs to be done, because if we do it on this unopened road allowance, we have hundreds of unopened road allowance that people will come forward and I know that the neighbors have been going on the road allowance and doing things. I also know that at the end of that road allowance are some unlicensed docks. So residents are using our road allowance. Now, do we care? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But it's being used like personal private property, and it has been cleaned up from the ice storm. The vegetation will grow and cover whatever is unsightly there. And I don't think that we need to set a precedent by going on that road allowance and cleaning it up. That's my 2 cents. So we have a mover and seconder for the memo.
I was just going to sum up if I could, Mayor.
Yeah, I was just going to go to you for sum up.
Sorry, thank you.
I think, Councillor Joyce, did you want to say something before Councillor Perry goes to sum up?
Well, listening to all the counter arguments, with sincere apologies to Councillor Perry, I regretfully have to pull back my second because I don't want to make exceptions to hundreds of other areas and open up that Pandora's box. So I should have discussed this earlier with different people, and I didn't, but thank you for clarification. I can readily see moving forward with this would cause huge problems elsewhere down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to second this motion? Councillor Ashmore, you want to speak to it?
No, that's okay. I think it's worthy of just getting on the table and getting discussed. I'm fine with the summary.
Thank you. You want to sum up?
Sure, just very briefly, and that's it's fully conceded that staff had said they would not do any more work. Hence, why we're here on, admittedly, this exceptional basis. If you look at it, to me, given the uniqueness of the road allowance and also the amount of debris logs left, we are able to justify a narrow exception to proceed. And I would, not be as concerned about the what-if precedent. We're in a job that we have to look at things on a case-by-case basis, and I would be comfortable that this one is one that rises to the level, especially when we look at the homes backing onto it. What if this was our place? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That was sum up. All in favor? And that fails.
Ron did.
And that fails.
Thank you. Am I able to ask for something secondary, Mayor?
Briefly, yes.
Thank you. I'm just wondering about what kind of directive or direction that I could put on the table about the city working with the neighbor who wants to donate the cedar trees, that they follow up with him to see how that partnership may evolve.
I would say that the neighbor should contact Public Works and see what can be agreed upon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That brings us to the end, but it's not the end because we have another meeting right after this. But I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Yeo, Councillor Warren, all in favor? Thank you. We will take 15 till 1:45, and Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm not going to read today's disclaimer about no cameras, et cetera, because there's nobody here. What's that?
We're on YouTube.
Well. Welcome, everyone, to the special council meeting of April 5th, 2026. A couple of reminders for today's meeting. Members of the media may sit in the upper balcony at the reserved media table. All other guests take a seat in the first floor gallery. If that is full, there is overflow seating on the second floor in the Victoria Room, where you will be able to see and hear the meeting. We live stream the meeting on our YouTube channel, and the recording is available after the meeting. This meeting is also broadcast Live on your TV, Cogeco subscribers 10, HD channel 700, and rebroadcasted on Wednesday at 9 a.m. and on Saturday at noon. Because meetings are accessible to the public in all these ways, video or audio recording by members of the public is not permitted in council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. Thank you for your cooperation. At this point of the meeting, City Council will go into closed session to consider items under Section 4.1 of the agenda. As per our procedural bylaw requirements, I'm asking all electronic participants in our meeting today to confirm to me by raising their hands that they are in a private room where no other person can overhear the deliberations and the internet connection is secure and not publicly accessible.
So, the very first thing on the agenda is the declaration.
Adoption of the agenda.
No, declaration of pecuniary interest for the closed session. So is that when you want to talk about?
But I gotta adopt the agenda first.
Oh, sorry.
Is there anybody online? Okay. I have a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor McDonald, Councillor Doble. All in favor? And that's passed. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, Councillor Richardson, as her son is a firefighter, has declared a conflict and has removed herself from the meeting. Can I get a mover and seconder that council convene into closed session at 3:48 p.m. pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act in order to consider matters identified in Section 4 of the special council meeting agenda of Tuesday, May 5th, 2026, namely item 4.1. Councillor Warren, Councillor Ashmore. All in favor? And that passes. At this point, the meeting broadcast will now end for members of the public watching on Cogeco, your TV cable. The live stream of the meeting on YouTube and the rebroadcast will now be temporarily paused for members of the public. When closed session is complete, the live stream and rebroadcast of the meeting will resume to address the remaining open session items on the agenda. All remaining staff, with the exception of those involved within the closed session, are now instructed to leave the electronic meeting and council chambers at this time. All in favor? And that's passed. And adjournment. Councillor Yo, seconder. Councillor McDonald, all in favor? And that's passed. Thanks, everybody, for coming.